I would like to invite the Sangha to please sit straight, whether you're on the chair or on the mat, to relax your whole body. And with me breathing, we will practice 8 exercises of full awareness. The first, breathing in, I'm aware I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I'm aware I'm breathing out. Breathing in, I'm aware of my whole body. Breathing out, I smile. Breathing in, my mind is calm. Breathing out, I smile. Breathing in, I take refuge in the present moment. Breathing out, wonderful moment. Namo Shakyamuni Buddhaya. Namo Shakyamunaye Buddhaya. Namo Shakyamuni Buddhaye. Dear respected Thai, dear respected sisters and brothers and the noble community, one of the Plum Village basic practices is breathing and smiling. Those are the Dharma seals of Plum Village tradition. We breathe in and we are aware that we are present. We're in the present moment, whether we are with the present moment of suffering or happiness, especially during this time of pandemic. the last week, the governor of California had announced to the public that everyone has to wear the mask in the public activity, in the public places. I'm aware that the pandemic is still going on and throughout the world, in the whole entire globe, and we are sending our energy to the Vietnam, the country that is developing strongly. The pandemic has spread, so we are here in the spacious present. I don't know, for those of you who came to the monastery and noticed the beautiful full moon last night, very calm, very pure, and of the moon and the wind, the nice breeze, those are the wonderful conditions of life. And if we live in such a way that we don't pay attention with on those around us, and we are noticing the moons here on the mountain peak, but those people out in the world, they may not even notice that they live with the sadness and they're not at peace. I see the peace has been present in me from the day I was young. I have not been at peace because of the war of those people who lived, of those of us who lived in Vietnam, have lived through the Vietnam War. And also the flood and the atrocity, the natural causes. And there are some wars have given benefits for those, but the war has caused the orphanages in Vietnam for those who have lost their parents during the war. So therefore, our mind is not just here now. This year is 2021. We will, in a few more days, we'll be entering into the new year of 2022. We are very aware that if we are not at peace, if our mind is not at peace, we recognize it, just a mere recognition. But at least we can notice that our body is still strong, and those our beloved still around us, and our loved ones are still well. That is the greatest happiness, because however much money we have or the fame, if we don't have the health, they are immaterial. We won't be happy, because the health is the prerequisite for our happiness. It's the most important factor in our life. I really like the guided meditation, because during the sitting meditation will bring our mind home to our body, unifying the body and mind. And we breathe, and we are aware that our body is still well. Our mind may still be running around, but we still know that our mind is still jumping like the monkey, jumping from branches to branches. At least we are aware, and that is our mind. With awareness is the mindful. That's mindfulness. Today I would like to speak about how to create the true peace, creating our true peace. On the right side of the basket on the yoke, the lady was carrying a yoke over her shoulder with her shoulders with the two baskets. And on the right side, it said, the loved ones. And the left basket about the degrees or the diplomas or the intellectual. Dear respected sisters and brothers, dear noble community, look at our time that we are currently living. We think we are present from the day we were born and for a period of time until the time of death, and we will pass away. That is the impermanence. And the time we consider the year now is in 2021. That is the time, and we suffer because of impermanence, because our loved ones are sick or pass away, or our loved ones went away somewhere, and so we sad because we are not aware of the impermanence. If we are aware of the impermanence, we will live fully with the present moment, here and now. And time also included non-self. Impermanence is on the historical dimension. We also have the ancestors, spiritual family. Spiritual family includes Buddha, our patriarchs, our teachers who taught us the path, the way to practice, to contemplate, to see clearly our true nature. So we practice the deep looking, not to have happiness in this moment, but we look deeply in order to overcome the sadness, the suffering, and all of the passing away of our loved ones. We stand, we transcend the birth and death, just like Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva is not like that, standing above all the waves of birth and death. We are all here together in one of these, and one day we will all be saying goodbye, but we will see again, and that is the energy and the path of birth and death. And the Bodhisattvas, when they practiced, they went through these ups and downs of birth and death, and they practiced looking deeply to see the non-self and the impermanence, and therefore they have reached and they become bodhisattvas. But we are still in the seas of suffering and sadness and despair. I'm talking now about how we practice. I would like to share the practice about our teachers, how if we would like to have peace, we be present. If we really try hard, we can practice the way that has been taught by the Buddhas. Have the right, she's drawing on the vertical line is right view, and the Noble Eightfold Path. She's in the circle. On top is right view. Next to it on the right side is the right thinking, right speech. right livelihood. Right concentration, right mindfulness, right diligence. First, we would like to pay attention on the right view. We know where we are. That's the view. And the right view, right thinking, right speech, right livelihood, right diligence, right concentration, and right mindfulness. In each of these aspects contains the other 7 factors to allow us to have concentration, allowing us to see truly the situation, and if we're not clear and concentrated about the situation, if we worry about the future or think about the past, we are losing ourselves in the present moment, and we don't have the right mind, the right concentration in our meditation to see who we truly are. I would like to invite the Sangha to contemplate who we really are. Are we our bodies? Are in our bodies? The Mrs. A, Mr. B, are they their bodies, the face, the nose is like that, or 70, 80 years from now? No one ever knows us. We look clearly. Are we this thinking? Are we our thoughts? We have 5 aggregates, forms, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness. All of these 5 aggregates in every one of us. The one thing that makes us suffer the most is the perception, because the perception, we perceive ourselves this way and the other person the other way. We don't really see the true nature, our true nature of ourselves as well as the true nature of others. I have asked my sister Dhammajang, this is me who are carrying, put on the yoke over my shoulders and carrying a heavy burdens. One of the burdens is our loved ones from families, my blood family, and by the heavy objects, a bit heavier than the loved ones, is because of our self and our degrees and diplomas. Because our self really pay attention a lot on our diplomas and degrees, because we can easily let go of our loved ones to really search for the degrees, diplomas, everything. But it is truly the self that makes us keep searching for these degrees and diploma. But very soon, after practice much, we can let go slowly of the self. Now, this is my temple. This a lot of the things that resulted because of our self, and the self and the self-esteem can be heavy objects on our shoulder. If we know how to come back to our meditation and practice, this is the picture of liberation, of peace. To sit and meditation on the right side of the board, you can see the picture of a person sitting in concentration and in awareness, knowing that this body is not me. I am not in this body. This body is not in me. I am not in this body. My child is not mine. My husband is not mine. My loved ones is not mine. They just in this present moment. They manifest in this very present moment with me. So therefore, we have to live fully and wholeheartedly. So not to be regretful one day in the future where we have to part from each other. The person who we love, we have to be present to know that period of time, 30 years years, 40 years, 70 or 100 years. They go by so quickly. Last year, dear respected Sangha, I lost my sister. I thought my blood sister had always been there for me. I have always thought that I would be the one who would leave before her, but suddenly she left before me. That this is the greatest loss. And I was aware that 70 years is really nothing. We tended to think 70 years, we do a lot, we can do a lot. But 50 years, 30 years, I invite you all to look again at your life. How many days of those 30, 40, 50 years that really, really are happy days? How many days of worry and suffering and worries and not at peace, just with the mere recognition. We don't blame. We just merely recognize it just in order to recognize. We do this and did that for that person and for this person. But if our mind is not at peace, those people surrounding us will not be at peace. Now we would like to come back to mindfulness. If we could let go everything, come back to the meditative state, breathing in. I know I'm breathing in, breathing out. I let go all the perceptions, whatever in my mind. Just to sit. If we sit there without a peaceful mind, then if we sit during that sitting and we recognize that we are not at peace, that is the very first recognition already in and of itself brings us peace. But in order to have peace, we have to practice because there's no other way. There's no other way that in such a way like, oh, can you do it for me? Can you practice for me? I take refuge in you. There's no such a thing. I don't know if you remember the sutra on the taking refuge in the oneself when Shariputra and Mahamogalayana passed away. Those two greatest venerable teachers in the original Sangha of the Buddha, everyone in the Sangha was so sad and deeply saddened by the loss of these two most venerable teachers. I would like to invite the Sangha to come back to take refuge in the island of oneself and not to take refuge in anyone else. Just to come back to our very self. Take refuge in the mindful body, in our mind, and in our mind, our current state of mind. Because if we can recognize merely what's going on in our mental activities, then you can at least. Otherwise, if we keep on jumping between mental formations and mental activities, we'll go far away from the path of practice. We learn to contemplate on the teachings, the Dharma. If we read 1,000 books, it doesn't matter. I would like to share the story about the Venerable Đức Sơn. He learned about the Diamond Sutra. He was studying. And he was very intelligent. Every part of this Diamond Sutra, he would write down. He would just he just talked a lot about the chapters on the diamonds. One day, he went and asked the lady who was selling a cake, asking in the morning, asking this lady, he's Chinese, having breakfast, eating breakfast in Chinese is enjoying breakfast. He asked her to sell him a cake, and she asked him which breakfast of the mind that you would like to enjoy, breakfast of the mind of past or present or future. So he couldn't answer. So this lady who was selling the breakfast asked him to leave. I'm not going to sell you anything because you don't know. So he was awakened. he had to go away, and she wouldn't sell him anything. He felt bad because how could it be the regular ordinary person could ask us that I couldn't even know how to answer. So he was so upset, and he came home and he burned the whole pile of books, and he resorted back to the teachers to study again, to deeply contemplate. And this is not on the surface of teaching and studying. We have to really come in touch with ourselves, true nature and a true life, true present. And life has suffering, but life does have happiness. I looked up to the full moon last night. I said, "Oh, how wonderful! I'm present for the moon. This is enough. I don't have to do anything else. I don't have to wish anything more. I just have to take refuge in the present moment." If we can take refuge with our own suffering, whatever, our suffering or worries about the children, or the worry about the future, the unknown future of the whole entire globe. In this very moment, I still have a little bit of worries because I see all the people are suffering. I don't like people to suffer, but my wish I know is going to be realistic, because we all be collectively together on this planet to see the suffering of each other. I don't know if any one of you feel helpless, feel that there's nothing we can do. That is the helplessness feeling. I would like to breathe with our feeling of helplessness. To respect the Sangha, there's few people complaining about the Plum Village tradition, asking everyone to just breathing in, breathing out all day long, breathing up and down, breathing left, right, breathing all the time with me. I practice about breathing. I practice breathing in whatever I do. For instance, during the driving or on the car, I'm breathing to come back to my awareness that I am holding on the steering wheel, or my foot on the foot pedal, braking or what. From walking from the nunnery to the dining hall, I breathe as well. we just come back to our breathing to know that our two legs are still healthy and our knees, although my knees are also, although it's still a little bit painful, but I still could walk. I'm aware that time is impermanent. Is not permanent, like we have always been thinking that our loved ones will always be on our side, and thinking that our loved ones will always be there for us. But we forget that everything in life is impermanent. I don't know if you have ever gone to the cemetery, the graveyard. I have gone there a lot ever since I became a nun. I came even more to the cemetery to really know that in cemetery has many, the headstones, the young as well as baby, as well as older people. And the recent pandemic, I've seen the cremation of people. And they hire the frozen train trucks to hold the bodies, the dead bodies. I don't know if it hurt you to see this, because they couldn't cremate soon enough, quick enough. They have to store those dead bodies in the truck, in the freezer truck. That, I don't know if any of you have been saddened to see this kind of image, but this is the collective suffering. We see our own individual suffering, and we tended to see the suffering of everyone, of the community, of everyone else. You see the love as well, the suffering, the departure from the loved ones, or when the loved ones depart or pass away suddenly. That is the greatest suffering. One of the retreatants came here, said that I couldn't say goodbye. Now how do we do? So in case we say goodbye in such a way that we don't feel we say goodbye, and our mind is still calm and at peace to see that our loved ones pass away, this is an invitation for the Sangha and everyone to come back and contemplate on. And that person, this person is impermanent. I too, we too are impermanent. That person is with me in the present moment. I have to let go of all the perceived notions in order to I'm talking about perception. When we talk about subject and object of our perceptions, we think that person is outside of us, even though that person is our loved ones or our co-workers or colleagues. But we don't know that we are interconnected because that person, therefore we are. Because we are because of that person's presence. This is the interconnectedness in the teaching of the Buddha. Because of we here, therefore that person. Because of that person's there, therefore we are here. The interdependent co-arising. We manifest in the present moment, and in the future we will say goodbye. In the last 2 months, 6 sisters in Clarity Hamlet of Deer Park have gone back to Vietnam. During the years my sisters were here, I was always aware that my sisters will not always be here. I was aware of those years. They were only here for a short period of time because they will have to go back to Vietnam, to their original country, to help other practice centers. Therefore, with that awareness in those years, I'm aware that I have judgments, but at least I try not to react on it. Our mind is working in such a funny way. One side is say, don't be so judgmental, but our mind is still on autopilot, is still working. There is still judging. But at least when we come to aware that these are judgments we are having, we're holding about this particular person or that person, at least that very moment we recognize, and then we can come to a complete stop, knowing that our mind is doing the judging work, and I'm aware that I'm sad. Even if you're aware of sadness, for instance, it's just like a white cloud will be passing away. Same thing with the happiness. Same thing. We just aware and we come back to our breaths, and knowing that the happiness will soon pass. At least we recognize that the happiness is there. There is a joy, and we try to practice. Try, because many people who come here to practice so diligently, but when they got home, practitioners, when they left the monastery and go home, and they got carried away by the life in their from home and their family. So sometimes you're here 5 days, 7 days, or 3 months, but the minute they leave the monastery and go home and disappear, vanish, all of these things. I'm just asking to try to, while we're here, come back to our breathing, come back to our present moment. Just like when we cook a pot of yams or potatoes. I like the pot of yams or sweet potatoes because I like cooking. And when you cook the pot of yam or potatoes, you cannot cook for 5 minutes and then you stop, and then you would go out for errands or grocery and come back and turn on the heat back on for 2 more minutes and say, I come back and turn off again, and then say, do something else and come back again to continue cooking. The pot of potatoes and yams will never be cooked. And the practice of mindfulness is the same thing. We'll be diligent and continuous. Even though the mindfulness is very minuscule amount of mindfulness, we are paying bills, or we're standing at the gates, or we're grocery shopping for the children. But as long as we maintain and aware that I'm standing here on aisle to pay at the cashier, know that we're going to pick up items to put on the shopping cart. So as long as we are aware that what are we doing, as long as the concentration and the mindfulness allowing us to really focus at the situation, allowing us to see clearer. And when we're not concentrated and not focused, we cannot see so clearly. When you come up to the monastery, maybe 15, because the road, you cannot do a speed like 35 miles per hour. You have to do 15 miles per hour instead. So those of us who live here walk down to the gate and noticing this is the oak tree. This is just wild grass or something. And in the morning sun, how beautiful, wonderful to see. And we're so lucky here to live here, to see the nature, to see the light that reflecting differently day by day. And by hour in the morning is the reflection of the light on the trees. It's so different from morning as compared to afternoon. And we practice to see everything from all angles and whole heart to see our mind. And our heart is also as spacious. We're not gonna just focus on our family, but we have our care, but at least we are aware to open up our heart to care for others, for those surrounding us, the wife families, the husband's family, our family at large, not just on a small, nuclear family of 2 or 4. We practice to have concentration to see that we are connected with all, with everyone. And if we have concentration, we will certainly have mindfulness, the right view. So we know something happens, we accept that something is happening, and then we're not suffering. We know we are sad, and we allow ourselves to be sad for 5 minutes. Someone has said something not so nice or kind, one sentence that not so kind to us. We notice that person is not saying a very kind statement, and we just have a mere recognition and let it go. And then don't let our mind thinking and chewing on it, on the things that had happened yesterday, and not let our mind focusing on the future, the things that we don't know, or the things that In the reality nowadays, I go out a lot to do shopping for the sangha, and when I go out, I wear mask, and then I come back home. I immediately wash myself. Have shower and clean my clothes to protect myself and protect my sisters surrounding me and the sangha. I'm aware that we live in a current state of pandemic, and so we cannot be careless about this. We have to look clearly, and so we don't have to be to suffer alone. Sometimes the suffering makes us irritated, agitated. It's like if we keep wishing for everything to be like in the year of 2018-19, wherever we want to go, we just pick up and go and just take off. But with that agitated mind, you're comparing from the years before instead of now. I don't know if you know this, but nowadays there are so many homeless people because of the pandemic. Therefore they're not being hired. The companies don't hire as many. People don't have enough money to pay the bills, and they ended up being put out, and they don't have homes anymore in the cold months. It's so sad to see the homeless people everywhere. If you're aware of this, come back and see what we can do. What can we do to relieve, to alleviate the suffering in the world, to allow people to have a place to live? That is a very kind work to allow us to see the interconnectedness. What can we do in our capacity to help those? Otherwise, some days when we are older and sick and dying, we won't be able to do anything much, and we'll be saying like, "Oh, I wish in the past, I known what to do. Then I would have done that." But it would be too late because we are on the deathbed. So the Buddha had taught us to come back to the present moment, to live in order to know. I don't know if you have read the sutra. There's some sutra when the Buddha was 80 years of age, he was still able to walk. In the old days, he is still walking, and no airplane or bus or whatever. He never got tired from walking on his 2 feet to spread the Dharma until the last moment of his life. And even one person came in to ask the Buddha before he passed away to have a question, and the attendant Ananda said no, because he's about to die, the last moment of his life. And then the Buddha was kindly said, allow that man come in to ask question. But the person asked these questions, that this person is enlightened or not. Dear Buddha, do you know that person is enlightened or not? So the Buddha said, it doesn't matter if the person is enlightened or not, but it's just coming back to practice. That is the Noble Eightfold Path. We recognize our suffering, and we know the root of our suffering, the causes. The causes of our suffering is because of our calculation, our perception, our thinking. Because we have tendency to think life has to be this way, and it doesn't include all. We just love with those who are lovables, but we don't love those who are not the same as us. Not sharing the same ideology. So that is the suffering. We need to learn to open our mind, our heart. Whenever we can do that, that is true liberation. Liberated ourselves from the prison of perception. That is the right view, the right thinking. The Buddha had always taught us, if we can aware we could do something that is beneficial to us and to others, then don't do anything that only beneficial for us and stepping on all over others. That is not what we should do. We could do if we do something that is gonna harm us but bring benefits for others, that is not what we should do either. So the Noble Eightfold Path is the true practice. Is the practice is not there to really feed in more intellects in our mind. It is the true contemplation and true practice to see our true thinking and perception. Are they truly practical? Practical and beneficial to our daily life, whatever the teaching of the Buddha. Did that help us? Instead of we cannot apply what we think to the teachings. We have to use the teaching, the guidelines and the teachings, the Dharma, that more applicable to our life, daily life. Very soon today, we will all be reciting the 5 mindfulness trainings. 5 mindfulness trainings are the guideline. Is the foundation, the guideline, is the North Star in the Dharma to teach us, to really guide us into this path, to be aware of all the suffering. The second training is also training about aware of the suffering. Basically, all of those, every one of those 5 trainings, aware of the suffering, this. Therefore, I'm determined to do this better, even though our mind is not there yet. We are not at the perfected level yet. And reciting the sutra, the mindfulness trainings is allowing us to be reminded in order to have wisdom and insight. Dear respected Sangha, precepts, concentration and insight, mindfulness, concentration and insight. So if we have concentration, if we have mindfulness, we have concentration. We have concentration, we will have insight. So we practice right view, then we will have right thinking. And if we have right thinking, we have right speech. We speak in such a way that not to bring harms and suffering for those. We don't speak in such a way to polish ourselves, to bring ourselves up higher. No, we don't speak in that way to prove anything. And sometimes our speech can hurt other people's feelings. So we must be able to be aware of our speech. We love, then we don't speak divisive language or speech. Not to come to this person and speak one way with 2 tongues, and then speak with come to another person, speak differently. So how to practice speak right speech, right, upright, and to be aware how we do to not cause any harms or suffering for others through our speech. So our speech, our right speech it goes directly with our right livelihood, right action. Our actions are in the right direction if we have right view and right thinking. Sometimes we are so angry and we lose ourselves. And so the mindfulness, the right action is in such a way that we do and speak in such a way that can bring about happiness for others and not to cause further suffering. Now, right livelihood is right livelihood means we choose the right career, the right profession in such a way that bring about peace for ourselves and others. That means we don't involve ourselves in a profession that killing other animals, like killing pigs. Here we don't see that. Our profession For example, if we creating more like guns and weapons, internal for the weapons that is not bringing about peace. How do we work in such a way that bring about peace for ourselves and those surrounding us? Very soon you'll be reciting the precepts. The precepts are very more details. You can more than what I can share here. If you have the right livelihood, then it brings about our peaceful mind. And therefore, we might have mindfulness, right? Mindfulness. I say we have. It's not true. It's not just we have. Whatever we practice, right livelihood, we have other factors. When I say the right mindfulness, the moment I say right mindfulness, the moment I finish that speech, that phrase, the mindfulness already in the past. So speech is only, the words only remind us. They don't really express the true reality. Is that not true? The one satna, one micro second, the one moment, one microsecond, as soon as I finish speaking, is already gone in the past, and it's immediately past. Let alone we're sitting here and daydreaming about the future. Future about what I'm gonna do. I will be doing this, I'll be doing that in the future. Then we miss the present moment. We live as if we have never lived. Isn't that true? I have done that in the past. I've done that. I've used to sit there and worrying about the unknown future. But this very moment, I only know to live with the present moment. So although sometimes I'm not really smart or clear. Right concentration, I've already shared. Now I can only speak. I cannot express everything. But the thing I would like to invite the Sangha is to look to search for this for the basic Buddhist teaching, the heart of the Buddha's teaching in Vietnamese and English. We have to read. We read in order to remember, to remind ourselves with the basic practices. We read not to collect the intellects. We read so that it will come into our stored consciousness and nourish us. And we have to read often. I don't know about you, but I forget a lot, and now I forget more. That I finished one sentence, I already forgot what it said. So read again and again. And Avatamsukha Sutra, they repeat it repetitively. The Gatha repeated 3 times because the Buddha knew already the nature of the people, the human. We tend to forget, so they have to be repeated 3 times. And myself the same. I forget often, so I have to read to nourish the seed of love, of practice, so that I can have more love. I can see more clearly how things are unfolding, not the way I wished, but at least we are aware that the things that have been not the way to our liking, but at least we are aware. Sometimes that not to our liking is a good thing, because it's a lesson to teach us to see life is that way. It's not gonna be always rosy. So we have to practice in such a way to see the world is unstable, but surrounding us is some nourishing conditions, happiness, like the loved ones still surrounding us, around us. We still have good body. Isn't that a good news? Or shall we wait till the moment of death and say, oh, how I wish to still have good health? Dear respected Sangha, Sister Nghiêm would like to ask me to introduce you to these two wonderful books, Creating True Peace. How to create a mind of peace, of calmness. In this book, our teacher had taught us how to live without and how to live with the conditions that bring about unpeaceful mind. And how to, so we search, we find out why do we want peace. We will do in such a way that the arrow becomes a flower. How to really have true peace with our loved ones in the family, and how to create the right view, and how to connect with those we love within our family. Because sometimes we have very close friends, we have close relationship with our friends, but really we don't have any close relationship with those we live within the family. So in this very book, it said to love is to truly be present, and how to be present fully. But to be present fully is really beneficial. Be fully present for ourselves first. That first and foremost. If we cannot be present for ourselves, we cannot love ourselves. So whatever we say that we love others, those are immaterial. They are not real. They are fake speech. So I wish that you could remember this. Please try to remember this, to see ourselves truly, see our true nature of our jealousy, our shortcomings, our weaknesses, and see, as well as to recognize the good seeds in us, the beautiful elements in us as they are, and not to really push them towards a corner of a house and then say, I don't have those. We have to really say, we are the nature of love, we the nature of compassion. And then we have to accept who we truly are. We have these small weaknesses like jealousy, like calculation, blah, blah. But at least we recognize that and recognize that, yeah, I have those, but I can still do better. I can do better. And in this book, it teaches us how to be truly at peace with ourselves, in order to be connected to our ancestors, our blood ancestors, and our spiritual ancestors. Because if we are not connected, we cannot be related to them. It's just like we are the trees on the rocks, on the stones, and the sand, and be uprooted by the wind blowing by. So how do we practice in such a way that we take root deep down into our ancestor of this dynasty, Zheng, Lê, Nguyen? We don't have a separate entity. We try to be better so that our ancestors can be better. So we are the continuation of the Buddhas, the patriarchs, and our teachers. If we want to be a good continuation of our teachers and our ancestors, we have to practice. We have to come back to our breathing. We have to come back to our true present here and now. And that is the connection. And our connection to our ancestors, our spiritual ancestors, as well as spiritual blood ancestors. If we don't practice, we cannot be connected with our spiritual ancestors. The reading of the book's not going to give us insight, but it's the practice that that brings about the insight and wisdom. Dear respected Sangha, this book I love the most. Understanding our mind is really psychology of our mind. I think the Zen Master Tung Jiu said, if we don't understand our mind, we cannot practice. How to understand our mind with 51 mental formations, the mind of love, the mind of jealousy, of hatred, etc. I really love. I'm not praising our teacher, but this is a wonderful book. This is the greatest book because I'm not praising our teacher, but our teacher is the best. The teacher analyzing the best way about our psychology of the mind that is applicable to our daily life is really talking about the five the minds of our consciousnesses, 8 consciousnesses, the seventh consciousness of the total of 8 consciousness. 8th is store consciousness. 7th is Magnat consciousness. So if you read this book, it allows us to help you to practice, but it's not gonna help you increase your knowledge or anything. It's really gonna help you practice. Dear respected brothers, sisters, and dear noble community, this is now a time. Time is over. The Bell Master had reminded me time is over. So I would like to temporarily stop here. We will recite together the mindfulness trainings, the 5 mindfulness trainings. We will all be returning to this hall. I would like to express my gratitude to all for your deep listening.